Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. My apologies, it's been about 4 months since our last No Filter Q&A that I released on our YouTube channel. 2023 has been an incredibly busy year so far for us. We're now working out of 2 gyms, one in Burnaby, one downtown Vancouver. My online coaching app has exploded, which I'm incredibly grateful for. But that's taken up a lot of my time as well. So no excuses though. I pride myself on being consistent with everything I do in life, whether it's business, my workouts. It's something that I'm always trying to be consistent with in general. And I shit the bed. I screwed up. So my apologies. I'm going to try to stay as consistent as I can with these no filter Q&As. As you guys know, I try to keep these Q&As to under 30 minutes. Sometimes they go a little bit longer. I do have quite a few questions to get through today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up into 2 separate episodes because it's been a while since I've answered some questions and these questions just kept building up. So I will get through them as quickly as I can. And as a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation, you can always email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's Q&A with question number 1. Nick, what do you think about the keto diet? Do you ever use it on your clients' diet programs? I have used the keto diet with a few of my clients, and I've even used it myself back in 2010 for a bodybuilding competition. I'm really not a huge fan of this diet, though, for a few reasons. The main reason is it's not sustainable. You cannot stay on the keto diet for the rest of your life, right? There's going to be social functions that you're going to go to. You're going to go to family dinner parties. You're going to be out. It's going to be hard to avoid carbohydrates for the remainder of your life. So it's not a sustainable diet. The second reason is that if you take carbs out of your diet for a prolonged period of time, let's say 16 weeks, when you reintroduce those carbohydrates to your diet, your body's become overly sensitive to them and you're going to put the weight back on as very quickly. So that's another reason I don't recommend following a keto diet for a prolonged period of time. Now, with that being said, there are times that I've used it. Generally working with someone who is morbidly obese. So let's say that I'm working with someone who has over 100 pounds to lose. I have used the keto diet just as an initial kickstart to get that person down 20, 30 pounds. And then I start to transition them onto a low carbohydrate, high protein, moderate fat diet. Other times where I've used it myself is if I'm trying to get someone ready for a bodybuilding show and we're say 2 weeks out from the show and that person is behind schedule, then what I'll typically do is I will cut their carbs, but not completely. So what I'll typically do is I'll go 2 days of 2 days of protein fat, 1 day of protein carbs. So I'll do like a rotation. And that typically helps boost the metabolism again, but it's something that I do for a very short period of time with those particular individuals. Third problem I have with the keto diet, I have yet to meet a single person who has done the keto diet and has kept the weight off long-term. So what I mean by that is I meet tons of people who say, oh, the Atkins diet worked so well for me. And yet I'm looking at them and go, didn't work that well because I'm looking at you and to me, you're overweight. So it worked during that time. But again, the diet was not sustainable and therefore it was not successful. A successful diet will keep you lean for the remainder of your life. So it's not a successful diet. It's a short-term fix. So prove me wrong. I'd like to meet a person who has successfully done keto diets and has been able to keep the weight off. Keep the weight off. Okay. So not tell me, oh, I lost 100 pounds on keto and then I'm looking at you and you're still overweight. I'm like, well, that diet did not work for you then. Okay. It worked short term, but it didn't work long term. So again, keto diet, it's not sustainable. So therefore, in my opinion, it's not a successful diet plan to follow. And as I mentioned, there are some occasions where I will use it, but sparingly, very rarely. I'd say 5-10% of the time I've used keto diets with clients. All right, next question. Hi, Nick, have you had to switch your diet at all due to the high cost of food caused by inflation? What do you recommend to your clients who are on a food budget and struggling to stay on their diets without going bankrupt? Learn to buy in bulk, learn to prep your food in bulk, and get a Costco card. Okay. if you're shopping at Whole Foods, okay, if you're shopping at Whole Foods and you are on a budget, you're crazy. Okay, if you're shopping at a Safeway or any of these little grocery stores and you're buying for a family and you're on a food budget, you're nuts. First thing you should be doing is going to Costco. Yes, you're going to have to buy your food in bulk. A lot of times people will say, oh, I can't eat that much food. Freeze it. Okay, get a dry freezer. I have one. It's not that big of a deal. I went to Costco actually earlier today. My food bill, and this is a food bill for the entire month for me, and I'm a big eater. Don't forget, I eat about 8 to 9 times a day. My entire food bill was $600. $600. That was it. Just under $600. And that's all my food. That's my brown rice. That's my quinoa. That's my yams. That's my chicken breast. That's my ground turkey. I got some salmon in there. I got some cod. My whey isolate, I picked up 2 bags of those. My olive oil, so I have peanut butter, all that stuff for under $600 because I bought in bulk. It's cheaper. So you have to be a little strategic when you're shopping for groceries. If you're going to, and I'm not trying to throw Whole Foods under the rug here. I like Whole Foods. Some of the products I actually like, but if you're going to Whole Foods and you're buying 2 chicken breasts for $20, well, shame on you. You're getting ripped off. Okay, it's not cost effective. So in times like these, this is a great time to go to Costco. And if you're here in Vancouver, there's big sales at Costco right now, so you can even save more money. So, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you are on a food budget, you have to watch exactly where your money is going on the foods you're spending on. Now, if you're someone, for example, like me, I like to eat a lot of fish. If I notice that the price of salmon is twice as much as it was say last year at this time, I might cut back on my salmon portions. Go, okay, I'm not going to eat salmon twice a day now. I'm just going to cut it down to once a day, or maybe just once or twice a week, just until we ride out inflation and prices start to go back down again. Look for sales. So it can be done, right? I mean, don't just start going to McDonald's or A&W or Burger King and saying, well, I'm on a budget now, so I have to eat bad foods. You can still eat healthy on a budget. Okay. I did it for years. When I was a teenager, when I first started prepping for bodybuilding shows, even I had no money, and I used to eat cans of tuna with brown rice and mustard. I did that for years, and that worked fine. Oatmeal is not that expensive. Another thing I'd recommend is if you are on a budget and you're finding even at Costco some of the prices to be a little bit high for you, just switch up your proteins and fats, because those are the things that usually go up in price. As I mentioned, like the salmon and cod, fish is fairly expensive right now. Switch over to chicken breast and ground turkey. If you're someone who buys a lot of avocados are pretty expensive right now. Switch over to natural peanut butter. So omega-3 eggs. Eggs are cheap. So it can be done. Carbohydrates haven't really increased that much in price. I've noticed oatmeal has gone up by $4 for a big box at Costco. The sweet potatoes and yams are roughly about the same. Bag of brown rice is $3 more. So carbs don't really change that much, but the protein and fats I've definitely noticed an increase on. So yeah, you just have to switch those up right now for more cost-effective choices. But that's what I'd recommend. Buy in bulk, prep your food in bulk, get a Costco card. Okay. Hi, Nick. I have severe pain in my right elbow whenever I train my arms. I usually start with barbell curls, then dumbbell curls, followed by dips and dumbbell kickbacks. I can't do any more exercises after this as the pain is too much. Any suggestions? Well, first thing is that I would do is I would go and see a physio and try to get him and her to diagnose whether you have tennis elbow or golfer's elbow. And that person can help you. You might have to book a few sessions with him or her just to help you do some physiotherapy exercises. There's tons of different movements that you can do. There's IMS, there's acupuncture. All that stuff will help if it's the tendons surrounding the elbow. But if you're actually looking at your workout as a whole right now, what I see is the first thing I see a lot of free weights, which I'm a huge advocate of. But when it comes to the triceps, I like to actually really focus on warming up my elbows and releasing what we call synovial fluid into the joints prior to getting into any free weights for the triceps. So for example, my typical arm routine, I'll actually start off with cable rope extensions. So that's just taking one of those black ropes and doing those rope extensions. Because I find what that will do, it will really help, as I mentioned, release that synovial fluid and help lubricate the joints. And that will usually be my first tricep exercise. And then as I'm getting older, I find I even need a little bit more warm up. So my second tricep exercise will be a straight bar, narrow bar press down on the cable again. And then I might move on to some, some skull crushers or some dumbbell kickbacks, because those are great exercises. As far as dips are concerned, I don't advise anyone to do dips for a few reasons, but the main reason is I find that dips put unnecessary strain on your rotator cuffs, and they do put a lot of pressure on your elbows as well, and your tendons as a whole. So I don't really find them to be that effective for triceps anyway. So I would take the dips out. I'm just saying I would change up the sequence of your arm routine. Another thing that I recommend that my clients do when they train their arms is to superset their arms. So do biceps with triceps, because that right there, you're working agonist versus antagonist muscle groups. And again, you have the advantage to help release that synovial fluid, which is, think of synovial fluid like a lubrication for your joints. And that's very important, because without that, that's when the joints start to stiffen up. So change the sequence of your workout for sure. I would take out the dips. And if that doesn't change anything, then you might want to go see the physiotherapist and see if he or she can prescribe a few exercises for you. Look into IMS. IMS is very popular, especially these days. I know a lot of athletes are huge advocates of doing IMS therapy. So that's another option that you could do. Okay, but I would change up that sequence. I'd get rid of those dips. All right, next question. Hey, Nick, what are the 3 best carbs, proteins, and fats that you would recommend as essentials on a diet plan? Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think there's 3 best carbs, proteins, or fats. I mean, that's a really individual question, because some people, for example, let's take carbohydrates. I work with people who can't digest quinoa properly. So even though I think quinoa is an excellent food, I don't put it on their diet plans, because I know it gives them severe upset stomach issues, right? So I don't put them on a plan. But those same people can digest brown rice, no problem. Okay, so that's a really individual based question. If you're asking me personally, if I only had 3 choices for protein, for carbs, for fats, for protein, I would take a good whey isolate, just because it's pure protein. It's convenient. There's very little fat, very little carbs. If it's a whey isolate protein powder, that's an excellent source of protein. I would, because I'm a meat eater, I would take some type of meat. It would be a lean meat, though. It would be something like a chicken breast or ground turkey. And as a carbohydrate, I really like using brown rice or yams. I could go either. I find that they're both excellent because they're high in fiber, they're a good complex carbohydrate, and they keep your insulin levels nice and stable. So I find those work really well for your carbohydrates. And as far as fats, there's so many good fats. But what I find with fats, what works for my body is a lot of fats that I like to use. Typically, I'll stick with omega-3 eggs, extra virgin olive oil, and natural peanut butter. Those are my 3 favorite fats to use. Occasionally, I'll have some avocados, but I find that my body works better with those particular fats, because don't forget too that your fats take longer for your body to digest, right? So you have to take that into consideration when you're trying to program a nutritional plan properly. That's another reason why I don't recommend people have fats pre-workout, because fats take longer for the body to digest. And the last thing you want to be doing during a workout is have your body digesting your food. So that's why I typically recommend pre-workout, stick to lean protein source and a complex carbohydrate source. That could be something like a scoop of whey isolate protein powder with half a cup of oatmeal. Easy. And then save your fats for post-workout. But yeah, that's what I would do. But again, that's an individually based question, but just make sure that you're doing healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, and lean protein sources. Next question. Hi, Nick. I've been doing intermittent fasting for the past 3 weeks and love it. My energy levels are always high. Is there any danger or negative side effects to staying on this kind of eating plan year round? Not dangerous. No, I'm not dangerous from everything I've researched with intermittent fasting. In fact, I'm a huge advocate of using intermittent fasting, especially from a health component. They've done tons of studies now with cancer patients who are doing intermittent fasting. It's really interesting, and they find that this is an optimal diet for a lot of cancer patients right now, because it helps keep the body in what they call an alkaline state, which cancer cannot survive in an alkaline state. So that's really interesting. So no negative effects in that area. It's actually very good from a health component. Unfortunately, though, with intermittent fasting, the problem is it's not an optimal diet to follow if you're trying to build muscle and lose body fat. So let's say you're someone who's a bodybuilder, or not even a bodybuilder. Let's say you're just trying to build and add an extra 15, 20 pounds of muscle onto your frame. your body needs to be fed constantly, especially protein, in order for that to happen. So if you say you work out at 8 o'clock in the morning and you don't break your fast until, let's say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and your fast is from 3 p.m. to, say, 7 p.m., 4 hour, what, 5 hour fast, whatever you want. Your body's going to be in what they call a catabolic state for a prolonged period of time. So if you're fast, generally most intermittent fasters will fast anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. So, that leaves your body a good 18, 19 hours to remain in a catabolic state. And yeah, you will feel great. And once you get into intermittent fasting, I know a lot of people struggle those first 3 or 4 days to get into it, but once they're in it, most people find that they have a lot of energy. And that's typically because their insulin and blood sugar levels remain stable throughout the day. But the problem, again, is putting your body in a catabolic state. Your body is also going to be eating your muscle. So it's not an optimal diet to follow if your goal is to lose fat and preserve muscle. But again, from the health component, it's a very, very good diet to follow. So I don't suggest not doing it. But at the same time, you have to look at what your goals are. I do have a few clients right now who do intermittent fasting. What I'll typically have them do is we'll try to program their diet around their workout. So during that window when they're eating, I like to put the workout in that window. So then they have a pre-workout meal and a post-workout meal, and then they can fast for the remainder of the day. And then I usually advise them to have like a shake before they go to bed, which is just protein powder. So, 30 grams of protein, hardly any carbs, like 0 fat, and that won't really break their fast. It just gives them some protein for the muscles. So, and during that window, when you're eating your 3 to 5 hours, just make sure you're getting enough protein so that you can actually build that muscle. Because if you're under eating protein, you're not going to build muscle. And if you're under eating as a whole, you're not going to lose fat. People think they lose fat. You lose fat at first, but then you slow your metabolism down, your body starts holding on to fat. So you don't want to starve your body either if your goal is trying to lose fat. Okay, that's not a good idea. I always tell clients the more food that you can eat while continuing to lose body fat, the better. So that's my philosophy. I've gone with that for years, and I always want people to have a healthy relationship with food. So I always think, hey, if we can eat tons of food and still lose body fat and still build muscle, let's do it. So to answer that question, I'm not against intermittent fasting. I just wouldn't advise it if your goal is to build muscle and lose body fat. Okay, next question. Hey, Nick, I know you don't advocate heavy drinking, but is there anything I can do to help prevent nasty hangovers the next day in the gym? On the odd nights, I do like to have a few drinks. I find it really affects my strength and performance in the gym the next day. Yeah, a few things. Listen, I like to go out and have a few drinks every once in a while myself. But what I've learned has worked for me personally, and a few of my clients that like to drink as well, is to cut off, and I know this is hard, but cut off your alcohol intake at a certain time of the night. So for example, if you're training at 9 a.m. the next day, rule of thumb I would use is I would stop all alcohol. I like to stop all alcohol about 14 hours before workout. So that'd be 7 p.m. the night before, right? I find that does help. It gives your body a little bit of time to clear out the alcohol. The alcohol will still be in you, but it does help clear it out because you're giving yourself more time. I have clients that will drink till 2 in the morning and come and see me at 7 or 8 in the morning, and their performance is shit. Another thing I would do is once you stop the alcohol intake, load up on as much water as you possibly can. Just keep chugging water. Okay, you want to hydrate your body as much as you possibly can, because don't forget, alcohol is a diuretic. It's going to actually take out water from your body. So you need to replenish. A good way to also get more water in you is adding something like coconut water in. I love using coconut water whenever I do go out and have a few drinks. I always pick up a coconut water on my way home from, at IGA or Safeway or whatever, Nestor's, whatever's available. But you have to make sure when you're choosing your coconut water that you don't want to choose the coconut water that has added sugar. So I always advise my clients to just stick with regular coconut water, which per serving is about 8 grams of sugar. So it's not terrible. It's not something I'd recommend drinking every day, but on those nights where you are going out for a few drinks, I would finish the night off with a can of coconut water. Coconut water is full of potassium, so it's full of electrolytes. So it's way better than using something like Gatorade or Powerade or any of that crap. And if you're using just regular coconut water, 8 grams of sugar is not terrible. Again, it's not something I'd recommend doing on a regular basis because those calories can add up. And really, besides the alcohol, there's no reason to take coconut water, in my opinion, on a daily basis. So I would cut the alcohol off 12 to 14 hours before your workout. Okay. Knock back. I usually try to knock back about 2 liters of water before I go to bed, to throw in a can of coconut water, and eat. But don't eat pizza, burger, and that shit, because you're going to have a food hangover. Eat something good. So like in my case, I go home and I'll have some salmon and quinoa salad, and then I go to bed. I feel great the next day. Very rarely am I hungover. And I believe it's because of those steps I take. I also don't mix my drinks. I usually stick to gin and soda or vodka soda, maybe 1 or 2 scotches, but I don't go crazy excess. I don't do sugary drinks. I don't like any of that. So that of course goes without saying. Stay away from the sugary drinks. Don't mix your alcohol. And overall, just watch how much you drink. Okay. Nick, now that most COVID restrictions are lifted, are you tempted to start competing again? I'm not. The only reason I stopped competing was because COVID happened. When COVID happened, I was prepping for a show. I just started prepping for a show, so I wasn't that discouraged. I think I was about 3 weeks into the diet. And then COVID happened, and then even though they didn't shut down the bodybuilding shows right away here in BC, I could see the way the world was going. I was like, you know what, this is not going to happen. I advised a few of my clients who were also prepping for shows that year. I said, guys, this is not going to happen. A few listened to me. If you're like, well, we'll see. And unfortunately, a lot of these shows got canceled last minute. So you had a few people prepping for these shows up until the day of, and then they would get canceled. I had a good friend of mine who went all the way to Toronto for the Toronto Pro, and he had his first spray tan on, and then they decided that was about 12 hours before stage time, and then they decided to cancel the show. They had to cancel the show. So all that work, all those months of dieting, all the months of training, flying to Toronto, and then all of a sudden getting the show canceled. So, I mean, that's why I was telling people, don't compete. So 2020, it's a write-off. But once restrictions started getting lifted, I found that me personally, I just didn't have the fire to want to compete anymore. I'm having fun in the gym now. I'm training. I still do everything that I did when I competed. I still train the exact same way. I'm still lifting the exact same weights. I'm still doing the exact same workouts. And I'm still eating the same way as if I were getting ready for a show. Obviously, I'm eating a little bit more food because I'm not dieting down to get to 3% body fat, but the diet and the training remain the exact same. The only thing is I'm not going on stage. So not much has changed lifestyle-wise. And as I mentioned, I actually enjoy my workouts now. One of the things when I used to compete, I used to feel a lot of pressure during my workouts because I'm like, I always felt pressure because I knew I was going to be judged on how I looked. So every workout I went in, I always felt like it had to be 0 mistakes. It had 100% focus, couldn't talk to anybody, no smiling. Like that's the way I used to train. And now I'm okay with if someone wants to talk to me in between sets, I'm fine with that. I'll still train. I'm okay with if all of a sudden I have to cut a workout a little bit short because I'm running late for a session. I'm fine with that. When I used to compete, I would just make my workout run longer. And if make a client wait, or tell my client we're going to start 5 minutes later and we'll finish 5 minutes later. So my workouts always took that priority. So now it's just a little bit less pressure and I enjoy the training again. So I don't have any desire to get back on stage. And who knows? I mean, I've said that I'm never going to compete again, but maybe once I hit my 40s, I might compete in a master's class because I don't think I can keep up with the younger guys these days. These guys are freaks. So, I mean, back when I competed, I don't think the guys, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to badmouth the guys today, but I don't think the guys were using as much stuff in my generation as the guys of today's generation are using. So I don't really want to go down that route and, the chemical warfare of bodybuilding and all the stuff you have to use to get big and for a plastic trophy. For me, it's not really worth it. I had fun competing over the years. I'm still healthy. All my blood works come back. It's all good. So I'm very, very fortunate to have been able to compete for about 12 years and not really have any adverse side effects. My joints are good. I actually feel better now, that I'm almost 40 than I did when I was in my 20s. So It's all about longevity. And a lot of guys, unfortunately, and women, they don't know when to stop and give it up. And unfortunately, we've seen in the bodybuilding industry as of late, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, lots and lots of early deaths. And I'm talking people in their 20s and 30s, few in their 40s, but really young. And unfortunately, a lot of that has to do with the anabolic steroid abuse. So, as I said, I don't want to say, I know I have said I'm retired, I'm never going to come back and compete again, but I shouldn't say that, because you never know. I might feel like when I'm in my 40s, I get my old ass up there and compete with the old men in their 40s. So we'll see. But as of right now, I have no plans to get back on stage and compete. All right. Last question. Yeah, last question. Okay. Nick, I'm curious as to why you think so many people don't achieve their fitness goals. I've had this question before. It's a good question too. And I usually have the same answer. I mean, I have a few answers, but the ones that come to my head right now, I should say, why I see a lot of people not achieving their fitness goals is because they lack consistency in their training, right? They just don't have that consistency. Their expectations are unrealistic. A lot of people join the gym thinking, okay, I'm going to do this workout. I'm going to go home. I'm going to eat clean for 5 minutes, and I'm going to see results. I'm exaggerating. I know it's not 5 minutes, but some people will think they can get these results in 4 weeks. That's not going to happen. If you've been following a shitty diet and you've lived a fairly sedentary lifestyle for the majority of your life, or even the past 2-3 years during COVID, you can't expect to just transform your physique in 4 weeks. Hell, you're not going to transform your physique in 12 weeks. It's not going to happen. Now, yes, if you're using anabolic steroids and using fat burners, sure, you're going to get faster results. Without a doubt, you will. But let's just say you're your average person who's competing, or not competing, just training as a natural athlete, not an enhanced athlete, a natural athlete. Maybe you're not even an athlete. Maybe you're just someone who wants to go to the gym, lose a couple pounds, and build some muscle. You have to have realistic expectations, and you have to be consistent. I see that all the time. I see people fall off the wagon so quickly. And then they wonder, they say, well, I don't get it. I've been training for 6 months. I'm like, right, but have you actually been training for 6 months? Like, let's go back and review this. What happened that week? I didn't see you for a week in the gym. What happened 2 weeks prior to that? I saw you showing up 30 minutes late for your sessions. What happened when I saw you doing your own workout and you were playing on Instagram for 5 minutes in between sets? All that adds up. So that's the one thing I see, is that lack of consistency. And if people just had realistic expectations, I think they would remain a little bit more focused on the task at hand. When I first got into training, I never thought it was going to be easy. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew I was going to have to train as hard as I possibly could, as much as I possibly could, to add on as much muscle as I needed. And back when I first started training, I've talked about this before, and looking back now, that was a mistake, but I didn't know any better. I used to train twice a day. I thought, well, training once a day is going to get me good results, but if I train twice a day, I'm going to get even faster results. I learned that was overtraining. That didn't work, but it did teach me that I had to remain consistent just to get to a level of the results that I wanted. So that would be the main thing that I see, is the lack of consistency and the unrealistic expectations. And I don't know if the unrealistic expectations come from social media, because now, especially these days, with all the filtered selfies, and you see all these people and their great lifestyles, and people think, well, I want that. Well, you got to work for that. You can't just go in the gym for 4 fucking weeks and think, I'm going to look like Schwarzenegger. Not Schwarzenegger today. I mean, Schwarzenegger back when he competed. It's not going to happen. Okay. So you have to know your genetics, and you have to know your lifestyle, and be realistic. That's the one thing I ask people when they work with me online. I say, realistically, how often can you go to the gym and train for 40 to 45 minutes? I want a realistic answer. I don't want you telling me 6 days a week, and I give you a 6-day training program, and you're in there twice a week telling me, well, I've got kids, bosses asking me for all this work, the wife is bitching at me. And I'm like, no. You said 6 days a week. So now we have to change this to 2 days a week. And that means we have to change your diet to someone who's training 2 days a week. And now we have to change your expectations, because you're not going to get the same results in training twice a week than you would 6 days a week. It's not going to happen. So you have to really have realistic expectations as to what you can achieve based on your lifestyle, your genetics, and what you're willing to do to get those results. There's no shame in saying that you don't want to put in 6 days a week at the gym and you don't want to eat clean 24/7. I'm not saying that you have to have that as a goal, but then you have to really be realistic again with your expectations. If you're not willing to put in all that work, then you're going to have to scale back your expectations. Say, well, I know I'm not going to get a six-pack, but I would just be happy if I can get my body fat, if you're a man, let's say, down to 15%. Okay. That to me, that's going to be my goal. And that's some people's goals, right? It's like you can't expect to have $1 million portfolio if you're only working, maybe 20 hours a week and you're starting off with, say, 50K in your bank account. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to put in some work. So that's what it just comes down to. Anyway, guys, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. As I said, I still have quite a few questions to get through, and I will try to upload these Q&As as much as I possibly can. I'd like to get back to a weekly basis. I'm quite embarrassed here because, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I really try to stay consistent with our content, with my workouts, with my social media. I always try my best to stay consistent with everything. I hate to fall off the wagon myself, but business unfortunately comes first sometimes. And right now, especially with the opening of our other gym and my online app, it's just taking up a lot of my time. So send me your questions. I will get to them. I promise you I will get to them. I will upload them on the channel. This week's No Filter Q&A will be going out on Tuesday, July 4th. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me those questions to nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting my business. Thank you for supporting my new online coaching app. Okay, it's been fun. It's been a learning curve for me, and I really appreciate everyone that's supported and signed up to work with me online. I'm having really a lot of fun with it. We have some new updates coming in the next few weeks as well to make the whole training and dieting experience that much more fun as you can make it. But yeah, so we're getting great reviews on the app. We're going to keep growing this thing. And yeah, again, guys, thank you so much. Everyone have a great week, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.